like to share with you that we have already 60 participants right now listening to you, and more are going to join. So over to you, sir. It's the floor is
Thank
all yours.
you. Thank you very much, Sanjeev. Thank you very much, Mr. Vyas. Let me begin with a namaste, which is becoming a global accepted way of meeting and greeting all human beings.
Yeah.
So we have done the first soft export from India. We should be very proud of that.
Yeah.
Let me begin my address by sharing with you the three economic variables that we need to manage everywhere that we are, whether we are in profession, business, on our individual base, wherever. And those three key variables are health. We need to manage our own health and the health of our employees and the health of our ecosystem. We need to make sure that all our costs are reduced and we get onto a completely fresh new cost curve. It is not cost cutting that I'm talking about. It is thinking of a new disrupted business model, which will lead us to a new cost curve. That is really the challenge. The third challenge is that we need to have cash at all times to manage our affairs. What COVID-19 has done is it has changed completely and dramatically the values that are driving demand, that are driving human intellect, that are driving the way humans will interact with each other as we go forward. And let me name those three values, which in a very broad survey in the United States came out to be the most prevalent values today in the context of COVID-19. And these three values are simplicity. The number one value that everybody in the world is looking out for is to become simple, no complexity. If you have to get onto a Zoom call, you need to be able to get onto it with one click, as all of us experience today. That is simplicity. The second is safety. If you can reflect to your clients, and if we can reflect to the whole community that we are serving, every member of our study circle, that we care for their safety, both physical, health-wise, and financial. And if we are able to convey that element, that we care for their safety, we are in a position to make a big difference to their lives. And they will accept us as our service will be seen to be pure and delivering to them the safety that they are today looking for and desiring. And the third, perhaps the most important one for all of us, is to engender trust. There is no value today which is seen to be more important than creating trust. In these times, the people who will be shunned the most will be the people who try to take disadvantage of this very, very critical state that the human race finds itself in. And this is why trust has become such an important element of the human race's thinking. Now, how do you put all of this together? At the beginning, I would recommend to our study circle to get hold of two books. The first book that I would point out is a book called Thank You for Being Late. It is a book written by Thomas Friedman, who wrote The World is Flat. This is his latest book, which came out maybe a couple of years ago. But there he emphasizes the importance of community. Now look at how fortunate all of us are. In 1979, when I went to Chicago, the first community that I joined was the Swadhyay Committee, community, where Pandurang Shastri ji was revered as a great leader, a spiritual leader. And we used to gather, sir, just like you mentioned a little while ago. We used to meet, and I used to be a great believer in telling the world that we as Indians have a huge amount to contribute, and that we should take pride in what is India and what is Indian. So that was one community that I enjoyed so much. 79, I'm going back many, many, many years. The other community is the study circle. When I was chairman of WIRC, the one community that I wanted to establish everywhere that I could was study circles. Because I believe so strongly that this is the best community that our institute has provided to us. There is no community more powerful than the study circle. Because here, we are not there to impress anybody. We are there to learn together. We are there to share everything that we have learned. No holds are barred. And that is why I love the study circle as a community. The second book I would point out to is a book by our own governor of the Reserve Bank, Mr. Raghuram Rajan. It is called The Third Pillar. And he talks about the three pillars as being markets, the government, and communities. And he makes the point in his book, and he made it before COVID was even on the horizon, that the community is what is going to bring out balance, which is going to bring about innovation, bring about the new world that technology and all other forces that are today driving us will need to work through. So he, in his book, created the space that today we can utilize. And therefore, I would love it if your study circle members can, during this lockdown period, read these two books, because they speak to what you are already doing. Now, let me jump straight away into what is it that we as professionals can and must do to get onto the front foot. And where should our front foot be? Our front foot should be in the space of micro, small, and medium enterprises, because that is where we are most required and where our contribution can be dramatically realized. Those of you who are on LinkedIn with me will see my post this morning of the 7-point program that I have set out in very simple terms for MSMEs to follow. And I would request that as a study circle, you see what we can take as implementable processes which we can actually support and create a completely new and differentiated and a front foot batting service that we can render to this sector. Those of you who can share the LinkedIn post that I have, please do so that that becomes somewhat of a framework that can be followed. But let me distill from that framework the 5 or 6 things that today have become extraordinarily important and will remain important post-COVID, because both are important for us. It should not be something that we are creating only because there is this lockdown. We should do something that will, in the long run, serve our purpose and our profession. So the first thing I would recommend is take the task of fully digitizing every one of these MSMEs. They must be taught the lessons of how do you work without signing a single check? How do you work without depositing a single check? How do you make sure that the entire outside in and inside out view that you need to manage your business, however small it might be, is all reflected in the databases that you create and that you can manage. So take the physical reality of however small a business is and convert it to a digital property, which can be shared, which can be changed, which can be added to, which can be interacted with, and which can deliver MIS and results for the asking. That is going to be a very, very huge service. None of the big companies that I serve on the board of can even exist if the supply chain of the small and medium enterprises, which are actually providing service and products, small little services and products to them, are not fully aligned to them on a digital platform. And the platform that is emerging as critically important is the blockchain, because it forces the truth. There is only one version of the truth which is pushed through the entire system. And whoever wants to take a look at that truth can do so in the comfort of their own IT systems, with their own controls existing. And therefore, it becomes very important to connect blockchain ideas to the idea of 100% digitalization. No checks, no paper, no manual work, everything done electronically, making sure that all interfaces and interactions are caught, data sets are captured as and when they arise, because the data set that is not captured can never be captured again. You can't go back and capture it. This whole idea of vouchering and all of that just doesn't work, because life has become so interconnected and so rapidly moving that you simply cannot wait for the kind of delays that take place in a manual system bringing data and converting it into information. You need a continuous machine which converts data to information, to executable ideas instantaneously. And this is the biggest delivery that our study circle and our profession can aspire to. There's no doubt in my mind that this poses the greatest opportunity today while we are locked down, and tomorrow when we come out of. So what will be required? You'll have to rewrite every SOP. I remember at the beginning of my career in 1982, Mr. Narottam Seksaria, the then managing director of Ambuja Cement, asked me to go to their plant in Gujarat, spend 3 months. I spent 3 months in their guest house continually to actually write out the systems and processes. And every time that any change happens, now there is an ability to update and completely keep the systems and processes updated. So this is something that every chartered accountant should aspire to do. Get involved. At that time, Ambuja Cement was a small company. It had just started. And so it was possible to flowchart every system, to write an SOP for everything, and then finish it in a reasonable period of time. Today, this has to be automated. Today, there's a company that I'm chairman of, which has figured out how not to write any software. The system, through its artificial intelligence, will write the software provided you are able to specify the parameters. So that is where we need to put our whole focus on. The second thing that we need to do is to help these MSMEs to rejig their entire business model. Completely new set of systems and processes will need to be established. And they will have to be acquainted with cybersecurity. Even in the smallest of small enterprises, it is important to teach and imbibe and make sure that the lessons of cybersecurity are learned. Let me give you a practical example that happened in Germany just this month. There was this phenomenal delivery company, which was a pure digital enterprise. It would get all its information of orders to be fulfilled off the internet, and the entire route planning happened automatically. And they were able to then plan the transportation in a way that it could deliver the needed products completely accurately. No need to collect money because the money was paid through a payment gateway. Now, what they were suffering from a week ago was a denial of service attack. So some nasty people were able to capture their systems and deny this service to this enterprise, which is performing the crucial role of delivering essential products and services to a lockdown population. Just imagine what a huge problem a denial of service attack of this kind can actually provide to a company which is purely digital and needs to operate fully on the internet. So therefore, cybersecurity becomes critically important. The fourth lesson is the lesson of collaboration. This particular sector, the MSME sector, can simply not exist if collaboration is not part of their DNA. On your own, you simply cannot achieve the ability to source products and services at the lowest cost. But if you are able to create a collaborative platform which can do joint buying or joint supply at scale, then you suddenly find that you are in a very different model where through a virtual merger, you are in a position to procure your inputs at the lowest possible cost. And you're able to deliver your products and services at the lowest possible cost because you're working with your community, because you're working with the people who are part of your domain and are able to deliver these services and products digitally. This is the fifth thing that I would recommend. And I'm going to now elaborate fully on auditing and how auditing will need to change in this new world, which will be digitized. So in auditing, instead of the focus being on routine systems and processes that we are also used to, the focus will change to strategic areas. As I mentioned to you, the German example of the delivery company which had a denial of service attack. There was a Czech Republic hospital delivering service to COVID patients, which could not carry out its surgeries because the hackers got into their system and did not permit the robotic surgeries to even happen. Now that is the kind of damage that an attack of somebody taking charge of your systems and not enabling you to continue to perform can do. Take the third example in the US. The US government announced a huge relief bill where $1,500 were to be delivered to the bank account through direct benefit transfer as we know it in India to every US citizen. As soon as this relief package was announced, there was a phishing attack. That is, that people who are wanting to take disadvantage of this situation started making propositions into the accounts of the people, the gullible people who thought that they may or may not receive this $1,500. And in that anxiety, got ready to pay $100, $200, $300 for somebody who could make sure that this relief would get into their bank accounts. Now these are the kind of things that can happen. So what do we do as auditors? We need to make sure that we understand what is it that every organization has done, including the ones that we are now going to work with to digitalize them, to respond to such incidents. So you need to first document an incident response protocol. And as the new work environment, work from home, remote working, a very large multi-terabyte laptop becoming the server, all these kind of things are happening in order that people can actually work from home. So therefore, the incident response, which needs to be given to anybody trying to hack into or get into these systems, has to be totally differentiated. And it has to reflect the new operating environment in which everybody is now working. Remote access changes the entire endpoint of security. Just imagine, earlier, and everything began and ended in your central server. Now, the biggest risks will start arising from the device that you are using, you and me are using from our own homes. They need to be secured. And the entire end device security has to be designed to make sure that this is protected and people do not get hold of our systems. Remote working, the entire activity of security capabilities, the external service providers who are providing security services, how to interact with them. What do you do with your SOC? How do you make sure that your SOC continues to capture the incidences that are critical and feed it back? And how do you actually have a remote protocol to make sure that from the comfort of your own homes, where you have your own device, how do you make sure that hyper-compliant systems will actually be corrected on your device if some incident happens, or if somebody tries to capture, or if there's a phishing attack, or if you are attacked by and you're not protected well enough by very strong software which denies entry into your firewall to any external attack. So therefore, and most importantly, the fact that all your employees are working from a remote place creates the risk of your employee information and their privacy from being attacked. And that needs to be brought back by us as auditors to assure our clients, our small, medium clients, to make sure that they do not suffer because of the lockdown. So what does all this translate into? It translates into the adoption of exponential technologies. And what are the 7 rules? These are very important 7 rules that I would like everybody to remember. The first rule begins with digitalization. Everything needs to be digitalized. Wherever you are on this planet, it is critical that every interaction is digitized. Take the case of Korea. They have opened up their entire economy. How have they done it? Because they have figured out how can you safely shop by not going to the retail place physically. They will take your order remotely, process it, pack it, keep it ready, take your payment away from your credit card, from your payment system. And as you drive up to the retail space, your package at a predetermined time, interval of 2 minutes, available to you to pick up, and you go away. Don't contact anybody, no queues, no standing in line, nothing. That is the delivery of digitization at absolutely the retail smallest level that you can think of. Next is disruption. If you do not disrupt, you're likely to get disrupted. And the only ideas that are going to get funded today are those that are highly disruptive, fully digital, and which will start showing positive cash flows very quickly. Nobody wants to finance cash losses anymore. That era is over. And therefore, very critical to disrupt and change. Go out and find out what the problems are and create a service that will solve that problem. So that's the second D. Started with disruption, started with digitalization, went into disruption. Then you have what is called deception. So you plug in your service, like the service that we talked about. If you want to be a great chartered accountant for the MSME sector, and you want to make sure that you have digitized them and written out all their protocols, you need to disseminate a protocol which will update the system as soon as the parameters change. That is deception. And it will start delivering service to people as and when the changes happen. So that is deception. It varies from a few months to a few years that you can remain deceptive under the radar. Then you get into what is called dematerialization. So you do work with far less materials. You just eliminate the need for materials, or you change the materials that you are using. Then as we began, we talked about cost cutting. That is demonetization. You remove the money aspect from the whole equation. That's demonetization. Next is delocalization that all of us are today experiencing. All of us have tried to carry out work from wherever we are. So the physical location no longer matters. So that's delocalization. And then last but most important for our MSME clients, democratization. That is making available the product or service to people at a cost that they can afford. So we began with 3 values and 3 critical elements. We went through 5 specific services that we can deliver today and tomorrow. And we have concluded with 7 aspects that will define the new world post-COVID. And in this new world, I would want to wish our entire profession Godspeed, great success, collaborative success. And Corona will lose, India and the profession will win. Thank you very much.
Great, sir. I think there are many delegates who have a lot of questions for you. And we have a lot of past chairmen and people from across the country who are into this. But I would request if anyone wants to start with, they can raise their hand or we can unmute you. We can see Arun Agarwal into this. We can see Subhash Bhaiya. Anyone who wants to speak first and have your questions, we'll be happy to speak to our speaker. So you can unmute yourself and you can speak your questions. I also see Narasimhan also in this room. And Narasimhan is a very strong digital transformation evangelist. He had been a speaker in many occasions talking about technology. So Narasimhan, can you give a quick recap on what are the important tools, in another few minutes, which we as professionals use to adapt to digitalization? If Narasimhan.
Hi, Sanjeev. Thank you for the opportunity. Hi, Shailesh sir. Very nice to hear you. In fact, this morning when I was just scrolling through LinkedIn, I did read your article and immediately downloaded it, thinking that I share with all my friends and colleagues. So thank you so much, sir. I've been following you and your regular updates. Thank you so much. Sanjeev, to just give an update on the tools, I think there are two ways we should be looking into this digitization challenge. A is first, we need to digitize ourselves and our offices. Second is help with our clients' digitization. So I think the primary thing what we have to do is try to put in some sort of a basic workflow system wherever we are so that we can try to bring in a digitization setup. And at the same time, not every client of ours can actually work on a virtual model or a digital model. But what he can definitely do is try to digitize so that, at least 60 to 70% of his tasks can, be reduced. For instance, it could be invoice booking or, accounting treatment or anything which is there in relating to finance. And the best part is, I think we have to get started with some cloud accounting software, because many of these cloud accounting softwares have inbuilt a logic where inventory can be maintained, payments can be done, and a host of these things can be done. So for SMEs, my bet would be, they should go for cloud-based accounting software, and that will be a good starting step. And throughout the process, you will realize what are all the various hurdles. And one other thing which I'll just make a mention, whenever we digitize, we try to fix a small solution and we don't look into the larger picture. I think that is where most of us make a mistake. We need to look into a larger picture saying that, this is what I want my organization to be, split that into baby steps, and then try to attack each of them. That will be the best approach. Those are my thoughts, Sanjeev. Thank you.
Great, Narasimhan. I have Arun Bhaiya who has raised his hand. Arun Bhaiya, over to you.
Yeah, good morning, Sanjeev, for the opportunity. Thank you. Sir, I just wanted if you could just repeat the names of the two books that you suggested. That's my only.
Well, the first book is called Thank You for Being Late by Tom Friedman.
Okay.
The second is by Raghuram Rajan, called The Third Pillar.
Called? Second one?
Third. The second one is Third Pillar.
Thank you.
The third pillar is community.
Thanks. Thank you.
So, Subhash Bhaiya, we would like you to speak, being the past chairman of EIRC. If you can, speak something, and if you have any questions, we'll be happy to hear from you. Subhash Bhaiya, you're there? I think it's not there. So, sir, my questions, like if anybody has question, he can. Otherwise, I'm filled with a lot of many questions. Comes in.
Sanjeev, can I speak?
Yeah, please, Rafiq sir, please.
Shailesh ji, thanks a lot for your wonderful insights. It's a privilege to meet you, at least in the digital platform. We hope to meet you in the physical platform in the near future.
Sure.
So, I think you brought out very key important points. We always thought that digitization was an option. Now, one thing COVID has taught us is, like they say, it has separated the men from the boys. The people who have been successful in working, the productivity of any enterprise or professionals is based on the extent of technology implementation they've done. So I think this is a very good lesson that technology is not an option, but an imperative.
Absolutely.
As professionals, I had some ideas. I think one, it's important that we need to get out of a compliance mindset and look at being proactive and strategic. I fully agree with you on this. I think it's important that we need to look at things from a proactive perspective. Another important aspect is that we see in this COVID world, wherever we look across, there's a lot of bad news and bad news sells. I think as professionals, it's important that we need to be pragmatic and optimistic about the future.
Absolutely.
So we need to, especially for our clients, I think we need to see how we can use the knowledge and skills and provide innovative solutions.
I cannot agree more with you. I think, Rafiq, what you are saying is so critical. We need to work deeply with our clients now. We cannot have a once in a quarter kind of relationship. We need to sit with them, collaborate with them, understand their business model, disrupt it together, help them to make the virtual partnerships, help them to get in touch with the collaborations, the technology that we are all talking about, help them to source the software, help them to make sure that they can bring it to their own desk and actually implement it. That is a new world that the profession will have to adopt.
Yeah, we also need to bring a change in our mindset as professionals. we always looked at client as a person for whom we provide a service based on the time we charge. I think we now operate from a higher purpose, that we are here
Yes.
to render a service, and we need to anticipate the service requirements of the client and
So
see
well
how we
put.
can be
So well put.
proactively
There
provide the
is
service.
nothing more important in the world today than being purpose driven. Everything stems from there. Earlier, the whole idea used to be, how can I get a larger chunk of the value chain? Today, am I purpose driven? Is what I'm doing going to change the world? That has to be our, and therefore I am now, as chairman of CII's Western Region Governance Committee, I'm saying, how will governance deliver a no need for forensic audit ever? So how can every professional, every person in a company become so honest and so true to purpose that you'll never need a forensic audit? So we're going to make this the theme of the year. We are adding a few others, but this is the key theme that we're going to push throughout the year. So thank you, Rafiq.
Sir, it's a great visionary thought, but many professionals have one common question in their mind, which says, it's great to hear, but then how do I take the first step of adaptation, of upskilling, of what's that first thing which I need to do? And how should I take it forward? Because though we enjoyed hearing all this and we all understand the relevance, but somehow we don't know the journey or the path and the direction we need to take. So
So,
what?
Sanjeev, the best way to answer you is to share my own early journey. So I'll tell you what I did, and this is the truth. I used to sit in a 4 feet by 6 feet office, shared the table with one more person. And I had to fight. This is going back to 1981. I had to fight for one PC to be bought, because at that time, to buy a PC was a very, very large investment in proportion to the fees that our firm was earning at that time. But I said, no, this is absolutely mandatory. So I said, the first thing we need to do is to buy and commit to that large investment, which was at that time a few percentage points of the total revenue of the firm. And once we had that, then we became obsessed with how do we get better value from that investment. And that took us into many, many fields. The first thing was payroll. The second thing that we went into was, how do we create a database of all the people? How do we create an alumni? How do we make sure that we can remain in touch with all our people? So all of those things, those baby steps evolved into the journey. And I think wherever you are today, you can just start the journey by taking that one big step, make that one large commitment, be purpose driven, and put in enough investment that you will then be motivated to get value from it.
Great. I have Satya from Katak who have a question. Satya, over to you.
Good afternoon, Sanjay bhai, and good afternoon, sir. Haribhakti, sir.
Good
I'm a
afternoon.
great fan of you. In fact, I have worked with one of your partner, Anand Jhunjhunwala ji.
Oh, very good.
Sir, I have but very pertinently you have said that fully digitization of our profession is having utmost importance. But don't you think our regulatory framework is somewhere lagging behind? Because we may make ourselves complete digitized, but somehow this legal framework is like that they are not accepting it. And you have seen that, we have all seen that, like in GST. We have seen, we used to listen that GST network will be a very robust software. It can accommodate any numbers. It can help us doing everything easily. But actually it was not. We have good experience from income tax. The income tax site is working well, but we have not learned anything from this income tax site, and this GST platform is very very worse kind of platform. So I like similarly you can see people were hesitant to do this GST audit because of the system loopholes, but finally they are forced and learn to do that. So we are Indian, we always work when our tail is on fire. So this will be possible, I feel, if we can represent government that make the thing simpler, make the thing uh, work at least to achieve the objectives.
Correct.
Then only we can
So
very well go with this digitization.
let me give you equally 2 or 3 massive systems of government which are working very well. You are aware that the National Pension Scheme has about 4 lakh crores of employee contributions which are being managed. Now, just imagine the complexity of running the CRA. As you are aware, I'm chairman of NSDLE governance, which runs the only real CRA in the country. And during COVID, we have had flawless, zero drop in the way that we have serviced all our 1 crore plus employees who have got PRAN numbers. Going by this, the EPFO has also stepped up its own systems of making sure that servicing can be better. The government's system on tax information network is what is actually throwing out all the avenues for people to, for the government to track those who are actually avoiding and evading taxes. And that is why the tax collections have always been ahead of the GDP growth rate. So if you do a graph of GDP growth rate and compare it with the tax collection graph, you'll see it rising. Although we are still not up to scratch in terms of tax as a percentage of GDP. That is because we are slowly realizing that there is no place to hide. While Indians are very good at jugaad, as you were trying to explain, we are also very slow in becoming fully compliant. What this kind of extreme situation teaches us is that it is far more sensible to comply than to try and do, because now that everything is electronic, you simply can't go, you can't access any books, you can't do any of that. So you need to make sure that your digital systems work. And this is the biggest delivery, I think, of times like this. So let me give you 2, 3 other examples which will make it clearer. We found in at least 2 companies that we were using space completely in a wrong way. And we could give up enough space to let one whole floor in an office just give it back, because we simply found that working from home is so effective, is so productive. And therefore, this move towards working on digital platforms, interacting with government systems, interacting with all systems of banks and financial institutions, and interacting with our customers and suppliers electronically is going to become the norm.
I think there is a great vision going on. Any more questions from anyone? Otherwise, I keep on asking questions. So, Tarun, you have any question?
So to continue the question that I asked, you said that NPS system is working well, but to some extent, government is not going with the system which is working well for it. Like NPS is working well, but what about those EPS and PF? They are not system. They are not browser compatible even. They are clearly showing only with Mozilla it can open other thing or explore a certain person. Otherwise, it will not open. If a government will not take step to make the thing simple, the
I will
thing is not going to
carry
work,
your
because
message to the board of the EPFO Many of them are very well known to me. I will carry your message, but I can tell you for sure that they've improved considerably.
So I have a very pertinent questions for you. Like I'll just go a little
Correct.
back.
We know it. Sorry, if I'm interrupting.
Yeah,
Audio is not clear.
yeah. Let me ask you the question, sir. So I took a little back, wherein we used to buy garments, clothes by physical touch. And today there's a good ad which came up, shows that the lady was wearing a sari, and she was having a mindset that I will go and physically touch a sari before I can buy it. And then the daughter said that you're already wearing a sari which actually has been bought online. So that was a good ad which actually demonstrate how e-commerce is coming. Now, talking about we as chartered accountants and the personal touch, the trust, and the habit of meeting together, getting our work done with our client, the consulting. How is that going to get digitized or digital, where we do a digital practice? Because still the element of trust, element of experience, uh, are they going to be a sideline in terms of efficiency, in terms of more control and more real time dashboard? Will that be taking over the trust and the
Yeah.
physical?
It's a great question, Sanjeev. Let me answer it this way. There is what is called the brain-computer interface, which is going to take charge of our world. So, uh, what is really artificial intelligence? It is intelligence, which is today possessed by human beings, being captured and additionally being made available to the human being. Tomorrow, it will be enabled by an embedded chip, which seems to be the ultimate object to which everybody seems to be working on. So, the greatest healthcare company in the world will not be one of the current owners of hospitals or current owners of pharmaceutical manufacturing facilities, but a purely digital device driven company. So, and this was a huge global poll that brought out this answer, that they had put all options, current government of the country, the existing pharma companies, Apple, Google, who will be the big success story. And they came out with a new startup, because this is the way the world is transforming itself. So the trust will have to continue, Sanjeev. No denying that trust. But the trust will be engendered by not only your own intelligence, but intelligence that you will work alongside you, which is the artificial intelligence. So therefore, when you combine, it's called brain-computer interface. When you create efficient systems to achieve that partnering, then the trust becomes larger, because the trust is no longer based on hunch, it is based on data. So as I keep saying, all lending will be data led, and all relationships will be led by data.
Brilliant, sir. I think it was a great session. I still look forward if there's any more questions from anyone. I can see one question on the chat.
Pradeep Agrawal.
It's from a person whose name is not here, but he's asking how to help contractors digitize site information flow comprising of numerous labors.
Yeah, it's an extremely important and very good question. I think whoever has asked this question must be put in touch with Sanjeev and the digital accountants to figure out what is the best cloud-based, simplistic solution to track human effort. Namely, who comes to work, how many hours do they work, what is the output, is the output measured, is that correlated to the human being who actually did the construction work, are the wages being paid, are the PF and other deductions being done. There is a simple software that everybody in the town that they are should be able to get. Or you go to a software as a service house and draw down that software on a pay-as-you-go basis. and completely automate your construction workers. We are talking about a few crore workers who will be helped by this process. So I think it's a very, very critical question.
We have a hand raised from Jagdish Agarwal. If he can unmute himself and can ask his question. Jagdish Agarwal ji.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Go
Uh,
ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Pradeep Agrawal from Baroda, Gujarat, and a past regional council member, also member of IOD. A good, big fan of you, sir.
Okay.
Sir, my question is because of this COVID-19 and lot of news media are coming that many units are expected to move from China to India. Can you throw some
Yes.
light on this business opportunities for the professionals as well as the Indian
Oh my,
SMEs?
fantastic question. Very, very good question. This morning, whole morning, I was on a call from somebody who has determined that in 30 days' time, the entire global supply chain, which goes through China in a big way, will be brought onshore onto the US and into India. India is becoming an absolute favorite destination for manufacturing. And there is nobody who can do this manufacturing better than our combined, virtually merged MSME sector. This is what I have written in my article this morning, which was referred to a little earlier. Sanjeev, if you can please draw down that 7 point for MSME article and distribute it to people on this, that would be very helpful.
Yes, sir.
I've
We'll
made
try
exactly
to.
the same point, exactly the same point.
Jagdish Agarwal ji, if you have questions, you can speak.
Yeah, sir was referring to blockchain. So how can we
No, sir, thank
implement it
you
in
for
our day-to-day operations?
So blockchain, now take imports and exports, okay? So the entire
Yes, sir.
documentation, your LC, your goods, the invoice of other goods, the movement, the tracking, the unloading, the loading, the release to the truck, the release at the factory gate, all of this can be blockchain. So that the same document, which starts out as a certificate of origin stamped invoice in the country of export, travels with the document until the goods reach India or wherever else it is supposed to go. Value add is done in the geography, and that whole journey starts again to make sure. So therefore, full traceability, trackability, and then the people who are part of that blockchain get access on a controlled basis to what is supposed to be taken away by them, and then you create a a cyber secure environment in which this whole function happens. What it does is it eliminates multiple sets of documents being created by everybody in the value chain. So one document follows the whole flow of goods. Same document. You just get a view of it. It's called a distributed ledger with your ability, with permissioned ability to take a view. Just as somebody has put up on the chat that the article is now on a WhatsApp group. Brilliant. This is a way to communicate everything. There's one example of a blockchain. You've already done it.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
last
Thank you.
last observation by Arun Bhaiya is Vietnam and Indonesia also coming as preferred destinations than India. So what's your view on this?
Absolutely. I think Vietnam and Indonesia will compete with India, but with our entrepreneurial capabilities, with our ability to work at scale, with our already brilliant relationships with so many countries, we have a great chance. And why not partner and collaborate with Indonesia and Vietnam, where we find that a value chain can move through Vietnam, Indonesia, and India? Why not look for that? So it's not as if India is going to be the exclusive manufacturing destination of the world. That is getting into another danger zone. It's far better to make sure that we combine our strengths and we work with the rest of the world in a proper way, in a way that we can build win-win-win situations for everybody all around.
So I have one last question, sir, before we end, and then I will request Dhanpat Bhaiya to give his remark, and then the closing remarks by the president is from, in fact, two questions, sir. We'll try to end up in time. Is how private equity and VC companies will look at investing post COVID-19, from Asit Sarif.
So it's very simple. I just heard a major venture capitalist this morning on a video, and what they were saying is that don't come to us for seed money. Come to us after, through your purpose and passion, you have put together a disruptive idea which is about to be scaled, and you have put in your own sweat equity. So in the first round, everybody will invest in you personally and your co-founder. In the next round, which is the first round, is the first time that the venture capital firm will actually look at you. So don't think that people are going to give you money to burn. No longer the case. That story is over. The new story is do it, bootstrap it, bring it to a certain disruptive level, then come to us for the first round. That's the new regime.
A very pertinent question from our past chairman Manish Goyal from Siliguri, sir. How will India match the price at which China was offering the goods?
That was the first thing that I started my talk with, that we need to acquire a new cost curve. You know, the only way to achieve a new cost curve is through full digitization, IoT, making sure that we adopt all the manufacturing 4.0 ideas that the world has discovered. All of them we'll have to bring to India. And that again is mentioned in my article, that we need to create a large $10 billion US dollar fund, which will not only bring on a platform people together, will bring money, will bring technology, and will bring the ability to scale through virtual mergers so that we can compete at a price. And every price will have to be democratized. There is no choice. If you look at the 70s that I talked about, the last one is democratization, but it is so important because people are not going to be able to afford very large price.
Great, sir. Thank you so much. I just want a little remarks from inputs from Dhanpat Bhaiya, because he's the man who has always done out of the box practice. So Dhanpat Bhaiya, do you want to speak for a moment on how we can?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I've heard Haribhakti very carefully, and I have taken each point, particularly the 7 aspects which I have already circulated to my Saturday Study Circle group. Well, I think disruption is the right word among all other things, and I think disruption technology which is bringing a big change. So disruptive innovation, and then I think that it has come that we should also disrupt our existing way of doing the audit, and the entire organization has to undergo a disruption. But a few words on the economy. I think that India has to learn how important it is in the new post-corona world to develop its own Swadeshi technology and Swadeshi goods to compete with China and to make our country stronger. And for this, Swadeshi Jagaran Manch, which I am the convener, and we have an institute called Swadeshi Research Institute in Kolkata. So today is Swadeshi Sankalpa Divas to be obeyed between 6:30 to 6:40 p.m. today. Today being also the birthday of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. So we Indians should feel proud that we have all the strength and we will be able to overcome this crisis from Corona, which is nothing in front of the kind of entrepreneurship and the kind of potentiality we have. So we should not feel fearful. We should feel like a lion, and I think we have all this.
Wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
Very good, very good. I fully endorse that, and I'm a great fan of the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, which has done so much for our country, given us so much hope. All the best to you, sir.
Thank you so much, for your deliberations, sir. And now I will request our President, R.K. Vyasji, to please give his closing.
Friends, we have been very, very thankful to Shailesh sir. He is a very legendary figure in our audit profession. And we have been enriched by his talks, thought-provoking ideas he has given, how we have to convert the challenges which has been now arisen out of the COVID-19 to turn it into opportunities for the audit professions. And it has to be more innovative, disruptive, and more harmonized with our local conditions and democratic setup. And friends, definitely the years to come will see a watershed changes in our audit professions, and the way, the path which has been shown by Shailesh Haribhakti sir, definitely we youngsters, particularly the younger clan, because I feel India is the most youngest nation of the world, and the strength lies in our youth. They can definitely, with the more entrepreneurial skill, convert these opportunities and seize it, and will definitely rise on this occasion.
Thank you
I
so
once
much.
again thank all the delegates who have joined these virtual sessions